everybody from Boulder and, well, pretty much anywhere because it's on YouTube. I am so excited to have been asked by Boulder Bookstore to do a Q&A about my brand new graphic novel called Catalog Baby. It's a memoir of infertility. And I've asked my friend Lani Brunn to join us. She's going to ask the questions. And she also happens to be a character in the book, so a little bit of a twist to this Q&A.
Hi everyone, you won't see my face, but I'm behind the camera. So Myriam, Boulder Bookstore has a few questions for you that they'd love for you to answer. So first of all, tell us, what was the inspiration for writing this book?
Well, I ended up having a really long, arduous fertility journey. With lots of losses, lots of ups and lots of downs, and throughout the whole journey I didn't feel like there was the kind of support that really spoke to me in terms of written literature or books and stories and anecdotes. And back then, even though it was only like 6 or 7 years ago, it feels like there was way less stuff on social media. Like right now, social media is just like packed with people going through infertility and talking about it. But back then there wasn't really that much that I could find. And it was just such an eventful time in my life and such a time where I needed support, and I wish I could find it. And so I wanted to create something that would be useful for other people in the future. And also there were so many, it's not just the tragic moments. There's a lot of really funny, ridiculous moments. Yeah. And I thought it was really important to include all of that. And I think that, in fact, is the funny moments that created the biggest impetus for me to create something artistic out of my experience, because miscarriage is a really, really difficult topic to talk about. There's a lot of taboo and a lot of silence around it. And it's not about dumbing it down or making it more palatable. It's about the reality that with all the pain, there's a lot of joy and laughter and hope. And it's such a mixed bag, and it's very complex. And so it made for a really good story to tell.
And I guess one thing you haven't told us is, what's this book about?
Right, yes. So I'm going to touch on it briefly. But Catalog Baby is about my fertility journey. So I came out of a relationship when I was 40 and didn't have any prospects for another relationship anytime soon. And I really wanted a baby. And I wanted to start making a family. And I decided to become a single mother by choice. And, like pretty much anybody who starts their journey towards parenthood is like, this is going to be so easy. And then it turned out to really not be. And I went through many, it's called IUI, intrauterine inseminations. I had 7 of those, and the first one worked, but then I had a miscarriage, and then number 7 worked, but then there was some genetic problems with the baby, and so I had to make the absolutely devastating decision to terminate. And then I went through IVF and did 3 rounds of that, and had another miscarriage through that. And I don't want to give away absolutely everything of the book, but just to say that the journey does go on beyond the IVF, so that's basically what the book is about.
It's amazing. And so you did not write a traditional memoir. You decided to write a graphic novel, and Chris Dash is the artist that was helped make this possible. But why did you decide to do a graphic novel?
Well, I decided to do a graphic novel because so much of what I experienced was so visceral and would either take too many words to express, and you'd kind of get lost by the end of the description, or there just aren't words to describe it. And I'm also a very visual person, so I felt that using words to enhance the imagery as opposed to either just words or anyways,
Yeah.
that would really make people understand the story on a much deeper level, making it more accessible and making it more of an emotional experience.
Yeah. So you have had quite the journey, and there's been a lot of hardships. And when it comes to miscarriage, what do you wish people knew?
Well, I wish I had known that it could happen. Period.
Wow.
End of story. I mean, I'd heard here and there of people having miscarriages, of course, but it doesn't really sink in, and it's not something you're ever really taught.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that maybe your mom happens to mention it, or, like, I just wish I knew about it, period, and that I had entered this journey with open eyes. I don't think I would have not undertaken this journey had I known that miscarriage was a very real possibility. But I think I would have been more emotionally and physically prepared for that possibility.
Right. So just even knowing.
Yeah. And also I think it's really important for people who are who are starting to try to have a baby, to really gather your people around you, the people that you trust, people that you can confide in, people who won't judge you, people who won't stigmatize you if something does go horribly wrong, and to just build your community.
This leads perfectly to our next question, which is, what are ways that friends, relatives, even partners can support someone that is going through a similar experience?
I mean, the most heartwarming part for me was when people brought me food, sent me texts, checked in. Sometimes you want to be alone, sometimes you want to be with people. And I think that for whoever is the support person, that they check in with the person going through grief and ask, do you want company? I'm going to bring you food. If you don't want company, I will leave it at your door. If you do want company, I'm happy to come in and we can talk, we can laugh, we can cry, here's my shoulder, here are my ears. I'm not going to give you any advice that you don't ask for. That's a really big thing, actually, is the whole advice giving thing. People really want to help. They want to share their own knowledge and what they think will make the other person feel better. But really, it's not about telling them, have you thought of trying this? Have you tried this? Have you tried that? Because chances are they probably have tried it, or they're thinking about trying it. And it ends up being actually quite triggering, because it's not just this one person who is offering this kindly advice, it's everybody, and it just keeps being a constant reminder of your pain, and a constant reminder of your loss, and a constant reminder that it's a really so just tread lightly there, and if advice is asked for, give it wholeheartedly and warmly. If it's not asked for, just lend your ear, lend your food, or give your food, I should say. Don't
lend
just
your
lend
dishes.
Your food.
Yeah.
But food and a warm heart and ear.
What is the most surprising joy that you experienced during this process?
So I thought about this question a lot, because it's joy, but it's also like, what are the funniest moments? And I think there's a distinction between joy and funny.
Yeah.
My funniest moment by far was when I tried to do a DIY attempt.
Sorry if I'm shaking the camera, everyone, because I'm giggling.
And Lanny here, who is holding the camera and shaking the camera, was a very intimate part of that DIY moment. Because
very intimate.
She did not provide the sperm.
It was awkwardly intimate.
But she did come with me to get the syringe at the pharmacy. She was there to photograph absolutely every part of me doing the DIY insemination.
Every part.
We laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed.
Yeah.
And,
it wasn't necessarily joyous, but it was funny.
It was funny. And then there's the joyous moments of finding out that you're pregnant. But also that's also mixed, because sometimes I'd be happy that I'd find out I was pregnant, but then it was also mixed with the fact that, like for the second pregnancy, for example, it was like, this is actually around the due date of the baby that I miscarried 9 months ago or 8 months ago.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's a lot of the joy was a mixed bag. And by the end of the journey, it was very tapered, and it was very, joy was something that I wished for, and then I tried not to go too deep into because I didn't want to be shattered yet again. But the funny moments were always there. There were always little snippets of funny, and they're so essential for mental health, and they're so essential to make me keep on going. And there were countless moments of absolute hilarity.
That's the book.
That's the book.
So onto your own reading. During the pandemic, what have you been reading, especially to keep up hope?
I've been reading actually quite a few graphic novels. I don't know that I read any of it to keep up hope. The hope was more around spending time with my rainbow babies.
Spoiler!
But it's I read Grass, which was a very heartrending graphic novel.
Anything else we should know about your book?
I really tried to make it so that it was a really good resource, not only for people going through infertility and through miscarriage, but also for their surrounding people. There's a whole chapter about what are good things to say, what are good things not to say, what really happens, what are the financial realities of going through IVF and through donors, and what are the emotional realities of having a hard time getting pregnant and staying pregnant, and what are the what's the toll that it takes on yourself, your community, your family, everything about it, because it's not always an easy journey.
And you're a Canadian author, so even some of the folks in Boulder might be a slightly different system that they're in, but there's so much similarities still.
Yeah, definitely. And I really want to stress that everybody, no matter how similar somebody's pregnancy journey is or fertility journey is, it's always fundamentally different because your social, economic, physical, relational circumstances are so different one from the other, that your emotions attached to it and the trauma, and maybe you have PTSD or maybe you don't, or maybe you have support or maybe you don't, maybe you have the money, maybe you don't, and so all of that informs what that journey looks like. And but the through thread is that miscarriage of a wanted baby is absolutely devastating, and that devastation is universal.
Wow.
And how it expresses itself might be different woman to woman, person to person, but the reality that you feel that pain is still there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Would you share a passage of the book?
Absolutely.
So I'm going to come over because this book is very visual. You cannot just read it to us. And where are we going to start?
So this is the one IVF pregnancy that I had. So I've already gone through all my IUIs. I've already had 2 losses. And I'm very excited because after 3 IVF rounds, 1 embryo was viable because I got them genetically tested. And so I had just had it transferred into my uterus. So this is kind of where this starts.
Okay.
All right. The certainty that I was pregnant never left me. The entire time before my official pregnancy test at the clinic, I had a calmness and a surety about it that felt amazing. And you gotta catch the munter like this! Wow, gotta be a bit gentle right now. Remember, there's a baby in my belly. How big is it right now? It's very tiny. Is it this big? It will be. What if the baby gets huge, like this big? Wow, what if it gets this big? That's really big. What if it gets as big as a house? Can you imagine? How would it come out? Your vagina would have to be humongous! I had the blood test a couple days later. You're pregnant! Just before the first ultrasound, the baby's name came floating by. Layla, Layla, Layla. What a pretty name. I subsequently found out that in Jewish mythology, Layla is the angel of conception. In the womb, she teaches the baby about Jewish custom and law. Right up before birth, she strikes the baby above the lip, causing the baby to forget what was learned and creating the little divot under the nose. I had my 8-week ultrasound today.
Hey, that's me.
That's Lanny! It was so nice to see my embryo's heart beating. Such a relief. I can imagine. I should head home, though. My body is starting to max out. The joy only lasted until I got home. I think something is very wrong. Can I get a repeat ultrasound? Oh, no. This doesn't look good. The next several months were hell. My uterus never seemed to get the memo that the baby had died. Had I not asked for an ultrasound, weeks would have gone by before finding out what had happened. They called it a missed miscarriage. September. I'm so sorry. There's still no heartbeat. You can wait to miscarry naturally, induce with misoprostol, or you can have a DNC. October. We have a requisition here for a DNC. I wanted to book it for you. Why are you calling me? I'm 50 meters away from you with an IV in my arm waiting for my turn. See? We got everything out. What the fuck? Why is she showing this to me? I never asked to see this. I don't know what to say. November. Why am I still not back on cycle? December. They didn't get everything out. Countdown from 100. Layla had been my last hope of having a child who was biologically mine. I feel like this is the third time Layla has appeared to me. That time during the meditation, and then in a vision I had a couple months ago, and now this. I don't understand why she came so often if she was just going to leave again. It's funny to hear you talk of souls and stuff, because you don't believe in God, do you? I wish I believed in something. It might make things easier somehow. Over the years, I've struggled to find some kind of concrete spirituality, but either it feels too hokey, too illogical, too appropriative, or too whatever. From this whole baby experience, I've come to think that souls and physical bodies are independent of one another. It's as if the soul chooses a body and takes it for a test drive. Sometimes it changes its mind or gets called elsewhere, and then we're stuck with the leftovers. I don't know what convinces a spirit to move into one body or another. Isn't that just a reincarnation? But the soul doesn't morph into something different or go from human to animal or vice versa. Layla is always Layla. It's all so inexplicable, real, wondrous, mystifying, confusing, unexpected. I think there has to be something out there, though. Something bigger than us. No? Maybe. But when someone says it's all God's plan, or God only gives you what you can handle, what does that mean? They're just empty words to fill that gap of unfathomable tragedy. Joy, grief, fair, unfair, truth, untruth, it's all real and nebulous, eternal and ephemeral at the same time. It belongs to everyone and to no one. Either way, God or no God, I have no choice but to deal with what's happened. At least with my friends and family, I can feel the realness of their love and support. It's so much more meaningful to me.
Thank you, Myriam. That was so beautiful.
Thank you. And thank you, Boulder Bookstore, for the opportunity to do this Q&A. Anybody who's interested in getting a copy of Catalog Baby, make sure you drop in at the Boulder Bookstore. They have copies, or they can order it in for you. Follow me on Instagram at catalog_baby. And thank you. Bye-bye.